Welcome to another episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing, a podcast where I interview young people about their journeys in manufacturing, how they intend to influence the industry, and what they are looking for from an employer. For this episode, I welcome Erin Sorensen, a 27-year-old director of the Innovation Hub, or iHub, at Northeast Community College in Nebraska. Sorensen's professional experience includes time with Kawasaki and working in food manufacturing before transitioning to her current position, where she looks to promote innovation in manufacturing careers and provide skilled training through partnerships with existing businesses. Before we hear from Sorensen, please make sure to like and share this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. To view previous episodes, visit manufacturing.net. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please get in touch with me, Nolan Beilstein, at nolan@ien.com. So Erin, thank you for joining Gen Z in Manufacturing. My first question for you was, where does your interest in manufacturing stem from?
Yeah, I think I'm somebody who I ended up getting lucky. Manufacturing was not on my radar going through high school level or college level. I had finished my bachelor's degree. I was looking to get my master's degree. I've always loved business. I just didn't know in what sector. And Kawasaki actually had some open positions in purchasing. I ended up applying, got the job, and kind of fell in love with all things manufacturing. And from then on, I just had totally refocused my career in the direction that I wanted to go. So that's kind of my goal, is to get kids to not fall into it like I did and hopefully have that passion where they find it younger.
So you mentioned your history with Kawasaki, and I know you also had a food manufacturing role. What made you switch to your current position?
I think the biggest thing, working directly with manufacturing is fun because you really get to see those processes and improve them. Switching into my new role as a director of the iHub, I have the opportunity to continue to kind of oversee some of those processes and partner with some of those manufacturers in our areas, fit their needs and what they're looking for. But that new sector comes in where I get to help kind of engage the youth and get them excited about manufacturing, get them exposed to the multiple careers that they can have within manufacturing, because I just don't think right now there's as good of a awareness out there for what kind of careers people can have in the future in manufacturing.
So based on your interactions with young people, where would you rate the interest level in manufacturing among Gen Z right now?
I think without a whole lot of prior knowledge from what I'm getting from most of these kids, if they don't have a parent or family member that's involved in the manufacturing realm, there's very little awareness. Or if there is awareness, I think a lot of people are thinking some of the more old school, less automated, on the floor type of jobs. And there are some that still exist today, but a lot of the everyday line workers as well are getting into automation and more high skilled, high technology integrated areas. So it's not a great outlook right now with just no awareness. But I think there's some kids out there who have been thankful to have parents or family members involved. I know in our community, a lot of the companies in the area that are doing manufacturing have tried to invest in like robotics leagues and some of those things to get them started early, sponsor the kids, and then you can kind of talk to them about how do these robotics work in our facility, in our industries. So it's definitely on the uptick, but right now, just as a generic, I don't think that awareness is very high.
So what's been missing in the recruitment? Is it that they just don't know about the career route, or are they turned off by the idea of working in that sector entirely?
I think that's a great question. And from what I see, it's a little bit of both. I think some that do know about it, maybe they don't know the extent of the career that they can have. And then I think some of it is just touch points. Career fairs and things in high schools and colleges are fantastic, but I think there's got to be more touch points throughout somebody's early childhood as they're getting into high school. It's something that I talk about a lot. There's many different avenues after high school for these kids. There's technical trainings for certifications. There's your technical college, a 2-year degree, 4-year degree, and so on. And I think if kids are exposed early to what they can do, whether it's somebody going out to high schools and talking or allowing some of these kids to come do tours. I know a lot of facilities have safety concerns or maybe proprietary stuff that they have limited what kind of tours, but just multiple touch points, getting out in front of these kids outside of just career fairs, I think will go a long ways.
And for the ones who seem kind of turned off by the idea of working in manufacturing, for those kids that probably have the correct personality and the right work ethic to go into a field like this, what's keeping them from pursuing it?
I think some of it is that awareness, and then the next piece is kind of just trying to get some of that mentorship. I think with mentorship, you learn the possibilities. I think there's also a misconception as far as earning potential. I mean, manufacturing has become an area where multiple positions can have a wonderful career and a wonderful benefit as far as salary and everything else goes. So I think if people are able to kind of get in early, whether it's with certification or skilled trainers that have been in the industry and now they do the training and learn from them. But I think it's a combination of that misconception, not understanding that there is a plethora of different jobs and different areas they can go into and well-paying jobs as well.
So how do you personally try to create youth excitement for a manufacturing career?
I think for me, first and foremost, is just kind of sharing my experience. I've been very lucky to have really great careers, great mentors. I've been able to travel, meet a lot of people, experience a lot of different things. And so being able to share my experience, tell people about the opportunities that I've had in manufacturing, I think that helps. And then elevating into a role like this, I think a lot of it is getting out in the community, talking to kids, gauging where their interest is. So we'll do a lot of youth camps around automation, robotics. Not everybody's going to want to be on the engineering side. Great. Maybe they want to be on the sales side, HR. There's so many jobs out there. And while skilled training is kind of what people are needing right now, if we can get kids interested in some facet and to look into manufacturing and look into these companies, they'll eventually find their role. So I think it's just continuing to be a positive mentor. I try to get out in the community as much as I can, whether it's volunteering my time or being at events and just trying to really share not only my story, but the community and what the community is building and what they need help with.
Can you briefly explain what the iHub is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a multifaceted location. So within the iHub, it's about 16,000 square foot facility, a wood shop, a metal shop, CNC router, CNC plasma rooms within those metals and wood shops. There's a robotics lab, a prototype lab, industrial automation, and electromechanical. So it's a lot of things. And the idea is something for everybody because we really kind of want to create that aspect of a lifelong learner. So getting those kids in early, getting them to develop an understanding, find out where their passion lies within the potential of manufacturing, and then kind of coaching them through, as well as we have people who have been in manufacturing for 20 years and maybe they just need to learn the new technology or they want to go from general maintenance to a PLC tech or something of that nature. We have those skilled training opportunities available to upskill current workforce. And then, of course, we do cater to some entrepreneurial endeavors too. If people just don't have the capital, then they can come in and kind of do that. But the overall goal that I try to tell people is the lifelong learner. We want to get kids interested early, get them asking questions, get them excited about these type of tools, and hopefully kind of get them into this workforce.
How do you hope employers will utilize the iHub?
I think the best way is a combination. I hope employers utilize the opportunity to internally promote their employees. I think most in the area have done a great job of continuing to train those employees that they already have, but also using it as kind of their touch point to the community and to the kids. Come in, kind of be a face in the area, have people ask questions. Where do you work? What are you guys making? What are you doing? I think it's a double-edged sword because we can continue to develop, improve their employees while also hopefully creating a pipeline of skilled workers and skilled employees for them in the future.
Now, is this directly for students at the college or is it open to the entire community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is open to the entire community. It's a membership-based situation there. We do have applied technology degrees, HVAC, plumbing, all those kinds of things. So some of the students will be in there for certain curriculum from time to time, but we do have facilities within Northeast campus as well that they will stay for most of their trainings there.
Is this type of project something that you've seen throughout the United States, or is this kind of an original idea?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think for the general public, the best way to relate us to what is already out there would be some of the maker spaces. There's quite a few current maker spaces out in the country. I believe Minnesota has a couple, Colorado, many different places. A lot of those have been on a voluntary basis. So volunteer ran, volunteer donated tools, kind of more entrepreneurial, just your average community employed. So it's a great effort to get people into these tools. I think where we differ a little bit is with the focus for workforce development, as well as kind of creating that pipeline. There's a couple others in the areas that are being developed. So Hawkeye Community College is another one that has created a workforce training center. They're pretty close to us. They're in Iowa, so I think they're about 3 hours away. So it's becoming a much more popular thing. There's obviously such a need for skilled training and workforce training. As far as in this area and with our specific focus, it is a fairly new concept that we hope to catch on and see develop in other areas where they're also needing some of those skilled workforce.
And what are you hoping that the businesses and employers that participate in the iHub, what do you hope they learn about Gen Z?
I think the biggest thing to learn is just there's a little bit of a misconception, I think, sometimes around Gen Z. And I think learning that while we may have different styles of work, different styles of communication, there's a lot of positives that come in. I think Gen Z grew up with information at our fingertips. And so I think we crave answers as to why and to understand and create those processes, which I think can be a really unique thing for these employers to really delve into and say, we're kind of heading in the direction of technology, we're heading in the direction of change, and these types of minds and problem solving can help us get there. And so I think it's a level of understanding from both generations, older and Gen Z, to kind of work together and find that middle spot.
Yeah, you mentioned communication. What do you think is the biggest difference between how Gen Z and older generations communicate?
I think a lot of times some of just the biggest differences is when it comes down to what's important to them and what they're communicating and why they're communicating it. So I think it's pretty much a common thing out there right now. There's a lot of companies that they do things because they've done them for 20 plus years. And I think because Gen Z has had so much access to answers and technology at their fingertips, a lot of times that's no longer a good enough answer for them. And so I think Gen Z immediately wants to know, okay, well, why are we doing this? What's the efficiency behind it? So that I think is usually just the biggest piece is they want more information. They want more why. And so sometimes that can seem intrusive, invasive, or they're pushing back on SOPs or the way we do things. But I think a lot of it just comes from, let's just know why, and is there a process improvement there? So it's understanding where each person is coming from. And I think that's where a lot of times the biggest disconnect happens.
What are some other things that you think Gen Z values in a workplace that older generations just don't think about?
I think one of the biggest things that I see both from my career and friends and colleagues that I've come into to work with is valuing speed and efficiency, valuing, a lot of process improvement. Not that older generations have not valued that, but I think they're okay with doing some of those tougher processes. Or I think about just automation in manufacturing facilities. It used to be palletizing very heavy bags all day long or boxes all day long was okay. And I think as the younger generations get in, there's not really a drive to do that. And so I think that's where the focus on technology and creating has been very popular for a lot of people. And I think Gen Z just want to see, why would we do it that way? What if there's another way? So I think that's really the biggest thing is there's kind of there's probably a better way. Why are we settling for this?
Yeah, so that covers, the physical part of the job. For, the mental part, mental health. How do you think employers can cater to it? Do you think it's something that older generations think about? Because I know for Gen Z, that's a pretty big topic they're considering.
Yeah, I think with Gen Z too, the mental aspect is huge. And I think it's completely different of what their asks are and what their wants are in comparison to older generations. I look at, what's come about in the last, I don't know, probably 5 years. It's gotten really big of like the unlimited or untracked, however you want to call it, PTO. And Gen Z just, I think, really puts a value on work time, non-work time. I think there is the value of workplace settings that becomes a big thing. And I think employers, they don't want to change who they are. They don't want to lose their identity. They want to continue to be successful, but I think they will have to start looking into and adopting some of those things. One of the big things that I've talked with some manufacturing facilities out there about is 10-hour shifts. Those become difficult, I think, with Gen Z. I think as well as people have other commitments, but I think Gen Z is just in the facet of I'll either go find a different type of job where I don't have to do those long days, those long hours, or some are in the mindset that maybe I'll create and maybe I'll do my own business. So I think employers need to find that middle ground. I think it comes to both parties having an open mind. I think Gen Z needs to come in with an open mind of let's communicate and let me share why I think this would be a great idea. And I think the employer needs to reciprocate that. So it's really a mutual parties coming together.
So you talk about having an open mind on both sides. What are some things that Gen Z is probably going to need to compromise on for when they're negotiating a job or job perks, stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And it's interesting too. I think there's a lot of level of confidence in Gen Z, which is not a bad thing at all. I think a lot of Gen Z are very tenacious and they go into a lot of interviews knowing what they want and where they want to fall. And I think sometimes it's a shock of a lot of things have been done by experience. So if you don't have X amount of years, you can't get that. And I think a lot of Gen Z is saying, but I have some incredible experience that maybe doesn't relate in years, but I should be either compensated or different PTO. And so that's what I would typically encourage Gen Z is know what you want and know where you can budge and what's an opportunity. And so I think a big thing is it a company that you can grow with? Is it a company that will internally promote? Find that middle ground and have that conversation before you sign on with them. This is great. I want to work for this company, but this is the level that I expect to be at as a position. How do I get there? And then you can kind of have that conversation together and it's very clear that you're invested and you want to grow. And I think that allows an employer to feel a little bit safe of, okay, I'm not shelling out a bunch of money for this person that's going to leave in a year or 2 years, but they have a trajectory of growth and they want to be here and they want to help us.
And in terms of what Gen Z values at a job, I think a common trend is that they're willing to take a different job for less pay, or that money is not the end all be all with them. Are you getting that vibe?
Yeah, I think especially now as time goes on, and I think workplaces shifted a little bit after COVID and policies changed. I think Gen Z is willing to take pay cuts for their balance in life, time for them to, or even have their own schedule. If they're not a direct production employee, I think if there's a freedom to work from wherever or a freedom to work early hours, late hours, I think that is becoming very popular for Gen Z. It's a mindset that a lot of us have of, I can do my job. If there's not somebody else relying on me at a specific time, then I can do it when I need to do it, type of thing. So I think it continues to change. I think Gen Z will get pretty creative with what they negotiate for job offers in the future. And I think that's something also that is a challenge sometimes when companies are internally recruiting and trying to post their own jobs.
How can the older generation employers combat that? I think the old mindset was, you go work for a company, you stay with them for a long time, you move up, and now as soon as Gen Z is not happy, they're looking for another option. So how can employers keep them around?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, and that's one that I hear about a lot that I've seen is the employees will leave, especially Gen Z, if they're not feeling like their needs are being met, not even from a salary or a benefit standpoint, just from their stimulation or their growth within work. So I think obviously recruiters are great at what they do. So the first piece is just coming down to the candidate. But I think what employees can really start to do is truly, one is highlight those opportunities. What are the internal opportunities? What is a trajectory? If they don't see a future there, I think the mindset is, well, why am I here? What's kind of the point of being here? And the second piece is keeping Gen Z, for lack of a better word, stimulated, excited, challenged. I think Gen Z is not as into so much of the mundane that I think has been required for so long. I think they want to be challenged and try new things, have trust from employees, be trusted to take on big projects, and not have to kind of sit on the sideline while more senior members maybe do things. So with those coupled together, I think there starts to be that excitement that, I want to stay here. I want to see what's next.
Thank you for watching this episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing. Please make sure to like and share the episode. To watch or listen to previous episodes, go to manufacturing.net and click on the Gen Z tab. If you are a member of Gen Z and would like to discuss your experience in the manufacturing industry, please contact Nolan Beilstein at nolan@ien.com.